You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, we are Enterprise-Splaining, the podcast where we explain Star Trek Enterprise to each other and to you. I'm Maria, and these are my co-hosts Bill.
Hello.
And Jamie.
Hi.
Today, our mission is a second contact. Last week, I told Jamie and Bill what happened on the Star Trek Enterprise episode The Seventh. They have now watched the episode and are back with their thoughts. So, if you haven't, make sure you listen to last week's episode before you listen to this one. All right, y'all, what did you think of The Seventh?
I can say that the second they said Manos' name, Eric was sitting next to me on the couch and he just whispered, "The hands of fate."
Would it be Manos, the hands of the faith of the heart?
Terrible joke. Thank you for that.
Archer was acting like such a baby about T'Pol having a secret mission and keeping him in the dark about it. Like, he is a Starfleet captain. He should be very aware of how and why certain information is on a need-to-know basis. And he's having like a temper tantrum about it. It was like, you had explained it, Maria, but I guess like in my head, maybe I thought you were like exaggerating a little bit, but no, like he was full on having a temper tantrum.
No, it was, and particularly when she comes in to tell him to ask for his help. And he's just like, I'm just going to watch my water polo.
It's that fucking smug laugh he does. He's like, Admiral Forrest is going to call you. Oh, is he? Oh, ho, ho, ho. How do you know that? It's like, well, you're up for trial for all these war crimes you've committed. I've been instructed to arrest you.
The way he was like, move over, Porthos, and let the lady sit down in like the most naughtiest way. And then as soon as he realized that she was going to tell him what was going on, he did like a full 180. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like all of a sudden he just is being professional again. And I'm like, well, what about before? You were being so unprofessional.
Yeah, it was, I actually sort of saw it as soon as she told him that she was, you know, with the intelligence service or whatever it was, and he was like, oh, this is serious. Well, because like before, I assumed, like, I just sort of
had the feeling. What did you find out about my father?
I just felt like before he thought, oh, this is just some Vulcan nonsense that I have, like, couldn't possibly be important. And then she, like, explains, and then it's like, oh, you have my attention. It's something that's worthy of my attention or whatever.
But frankly, like, the Vulcans are, like, essentially, like, the equivalent of, like, another nation in our world. Like, It may even be something that we don't see as important, but if they have decided that this is, like, highly classified information, like, you are not entitled to it.
I mean, something's going on with the Vulcans. I think that is clear here. I mean, based on this, at the end of this episode, I was like, I feel like the Vulcans are actively trying to fuck with T'Pol.
I have
like,
so many thoughts about this.
Yeah, that was actually my kind of follow-up. Like, did you guys have that same vibe? Because I just felt like choosing T'Pol, singling T'Pol out because of honor is a weird
was very
thing.
Strange.
Right.
And they had to have known that she had this Falara done and that it would cause these memories to come back. Like, they had to have known it would have an impact on her.
You would think that they would be keeping her as far from there as possible because they would presumably know that it could trigger her memories.
Yeah, so my theory is they are actively working against the Enterprise, and
I don't think that's a secret.
But because T'Pol has put her faith in Enterprise, has basically chosen sides in their mind.
Not gonna say it.
Thank you. Why can I can never say faith ever again. Never gonna be able to say it. But yeah, because she's chosen sides and has chosen to stay with Enterprise, they are now trying to, like, discredit her, make her seem crazy, make her have a breakdown, you know, whatever. That's my theory on this.
This whole episode, just like watching this, it just felt like so many thrown away opportunities, and I'm tired of trying to create like a superstructure headcanon of what actually is going on behind the scenes when I know it's just sloppy writing. They don't care based on what I've heard from other people. But it just seems like we've learned, this is the second planet we've learned on where the Vulcans are infiltrating criminal organizations. This is full on like Black Ops regime change shit, and they don't care. And the weird fucking part is, Archer hates the Vulcan government, except in this case, he's completely okay with, oh no, they told you to capture this guy. You need to go and capture him and not question your orders at all.
Yeah, it felt really out of character.
The way that I kind of read it, and maybe this is because I have been working on edits for Dead Stop, and in Dead Stop, like, Archer's instincts were right. And I think what they're trying to show here is Archer does have good instincts, even though he actually doesn't. But right. I don't think it has to do with Archer disliking the Vulcans in this situation. I think Archer just felt like something was up with this guy and he didn't trust him. And therefore he felt like he wanted to push T'Pol to capture him and ask questions later.
I think Archer was torn between him not liking the Vulcans and wanting to believe the Vulcans are always wrong, and him wanting to believe that T'Pol's always wrong and always be the one in the right over her. And it's just like, in this case, the Vulcans won out. Maybe because they weren't there, so they're not like there to see him be on their side.
That is fantastic.
But T'Pol's there, so he had to make sure that she knew he didn't disagree.
I think this could have been done in such a better way, especially when you get into the idea that T'Pol's memory has been fucked with. Like, she doesn't remember. She just has been sent on this mission and has no memory at all. And then it's Minos who gets to reveal, it's like, you don't remember what happened?
Yeah.
I will say one thing I really liked about this episode. I thought that the way it was shot, whoever the director of photography was, did a really good job. Lots of handheld shots, lots of close-ups. It felt very disorienting, which I thought really helped the mood. And that last scene where they're chasing Minos out through the landing bay or the landing area, and it's very dark and like very atmospheric. I thought that was shot very, very well. So whoever was in charge of that was really good.
What did you guys think about the acid on the landing platform?
Stupidest idea in the world. That could have just been them saying, the weather is too bad, we've grounded all flights, nobody can leave. Yeah. But it never came up, it never paid off in any way, it was just a dumb idea.
Also, we specifically saw the snow, there was a layer of snow on top of the acid, which makes no sense.
None.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, when there was the fire, everybody was running out of the bar. They were just running out like onto the acid.
Onto the acid. That was my point.
It was so confusing.
After the fire, everybody just ran out and took off. Like, no worries about the acid, nothing.
Travis saying he kicked over the table was terrible ADR to explain why this fire broke out. It could have been anything, like he set off a bomb, or I don't know what happened, or something like
that. Fire was insane. Like, it happened within 5 seconds, and that we're supposed to believe that's because he kicked over a table that had a candle on it or something.
Yeah.
The fuck.
I just keep going back to like that one scene where in Archer's room where he was being rude to T'Pol, and then at the very end when she's leaving and she has that good moment where he asks her why she's essentially like breaking the Vulcan rules to tell him about this. Like, this is a very serious violation that she's doing. She's telling him classified information. Yeah. And she tells him that she trusts him, and like after that scene, like right after, he was being so rude, and he clearly like doesn't trust her. Like, he was showing that he didn't trust her by how rude he was treating her. If he trusted her, he would trust that if there was something he needed to know, she would tell him.
But he doesn't trust her. He doesn't trust her.
He doesn't.
I don't think he trusts her at all. And I mean, like that very last scene where she's like, if you ever need anything, and he was like, I'll remember.
But he is absolutely not going to remember that.
Also, what the fuck up was with Archer is she has this big reveal. She's finally revealed she killed a man. She killed someone. And Archer's reaction is like, well, what? He was pulling a gun on you.
I know.
It's like,
yeah, but to be fair, But to be fair, that is Archer's methodology for handling death in general. Like, oh, I killed a bunch of people. As long as it wasn't my fault, it's fine, you know?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's everything that's wrong with the show, is the fact that, like, Archer and his people don't seem to care about things like that. Like, they don't care about taking someone else's life.
I wish there was an experienced Trek writer doing a second pass on these scripts, because there are some good bones in here, but it does not come together.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The whole point about, like, all the stuff that Trip is dealing with, like it's just a gag that he's putting it off, but like, okay, we need to take the torpedoes offline. We need to give the crews inoculation that's going to give them diarrhea 2 days. Those could have come into the plot. Those could have, like, paid off in some way, but they're just throwaway gags.
At a minimum, have Trip sort of be like, hey, you know, being a captain is harder than I thought it would be. You know, something that he learned something. So it's kind of, to me, interesting that, like, we've seen in this season, actually throughout the whole series, that they are keeping lines of continuity going, which is unusual for Trek, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's
like,
something I really like about this show.
I do too. So with, like, Minefield and Dead Stop and, you know, dealing with the consequences of what happens in one episode, but that doesn't ever translate to the characters. Like, the characters almost never have to deal with the consequences, even within an episode, of their actions. Even T'Pol is just like, I don't need any time off. I'm older now. I know how to deal with this. It's fine. But girl, no. Like, you need to work through this. This is a big psychological trauma for you, clearly. And the way you dealt with it when you were younger was you literally forgot it. And now you have to deal with those memories again. It's bizarre to me.
I'll just have my memories erased again on the gem. Oh, wait, no, I can't.
I do really like the idea that the Vulcans, there are some things that are so traumatic that somebody can go through a situation that is so traumatic that they're not able to suppress their emotions from it. And that, one, there would be, like, specific processes set up to try to help you do that. Like, it's especially because the Vulcans they're very religious, right? Like, they have these like monasteries and monks and all this other stuff. We've seen they're very quote unquote spiritual, which is odd for such a logical species. Their spirituality doesn't seem to have anything to do with, like, gods or anything
higher
supernatural.
Right.
So it makes sense to me that actually that would all be around, like, rituals, and many of those rituals are going to be rituals about suppressing your emotion, and that's actually what their spirituality is all about. So when you're having trouble suppressing an emotion, you would, like, go basically to, like, a religious center for help. And it is a very interesting concept to me that there are going to be some things where even that, like, counseling is not going to help you, and it's kind of scary that their solution in those situations is just, we're just going to erase your memory of it.
Yeah.
She did say that is it's an old, like, ritual that is no longer, it's like an obsolete ritual or something.
Oh, she said it was obsolete? Huh.
Yeah, so it was a very I think it was unusual that would have happened, probably because we'd never seen it anywhere else in Star Trek up until then. So they had to say it was something that was very rare. But yeah, I agree. I think it's sort of strange the way they feel like the Vulcans are just very different.
So I had a minor revelation that will probably seem obvious to you, and maybe I'm just able to verbalize it now, but this show is less interested in revealing the early days of Starfleet, and it's more interested in just playing around in the Star Trek universe without the ethical or moral rules that have been established in everything. So that's really what they're doing. It's not like they're figuring things out. It's just like, we want to play with this IP, but we don't want to have to deal with any of the other nonsense.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I have some costuming thoughts, but Jamie, if you have anything before we move into
I have, like, lots of little things. The turbo lift, there was no lever. I did not.
No, there was no
not.
lever. I couldn't remember. Yeah, I couldn't remember. So that's interesting.
So I was very surprised, because I would have thought that they would have definitely, like, copied the look of the TOS turbo lifts.
Did they walk in and give it a voice command though, or did they push a
No,
button?
I didn't see that. I think
they pushed a
I
button.
Yeah, I think they might have pushed a button or something. They definitely did not give a voice command.
So I guess it's like these are just elevators before we had turbo lifts. You know?
Oh no,
Like
I said they were elevators before, and I got taken to task.
they're fancy elevators.
Fancy
a tur-
Vaders.
Fancy Vaders, yeah.
And I also just want to point out, in the beginning, T'Pol was told Archer that there were hundreds of those undercover agents that were sent to the planet. But later, Manos says there was 109. And it's a whole trope that Vulcans, like, very famously are very specific about numbers. So I thought it was strange that she got it wrong.
T'Pol has been on Enterprise so long that she's doing hashtag Enterprise math, where if it's 109, you round up to 200.
And when it's the number of female crew members, you round up to 1/3.
Yes, exactly.
Bill, what were your fashion?
So the winter jackets they wore, I was of two minds of that. One, they were really boring. But two, I appreciated that they were sort of tactical. Like, they didn't draw attention to themselves. They were just sort of like plain, like, they were like winter coats you would have now. So it wasn't like, hey, we're Starfleet, we're from Earth, hey, check us out. It was like, I don't know, it didn't seem like an official uniform, but it did seem very, like, low-key.
They did look like giant dorks, though.
They
Yeah.
did.
But my read was like, these are not their normal winter gear. These are like their undercover winter
Yeah.
gear or something.
Yeah. It was being low key. Second, I loved the look of all the aliens. It felt very like the Star Wars
Oh, yeah, I
cantina,
loved that
just like
part.
panning through, seeing all the aliens, and they're just like
Yep.
looking around them. And then, did you guys notice? It was back. The regionals water polo travel bag.
Yeah.
Archer
Oh, I
takes
missed
it with him.
It was there.
I totally
noticed
missed
that.
it.
I actually rewound to make sure I could see the logo.
That was actually the first time that Steven caught that was a water. He was like, "Is that a water polo bag he's holding?" It was really funny.
Speaking of water polo, so last time we did a second contact and we had Abby and Chris from First Flight Pod with us. They mentioned that when Archer throws the ball against the door, that's the door to his bathroom. And so during that scene, because he was in this episode, he was throwing the ball against the door. I was like, Eric, I got like a fact for you. And we were watching it. It definitely was his bathroom because T'Pol came in a different door.
Sure.
But then after the episode, for some reason, we were like talking about water polo and how weird it is, the water polo on this show. And then that led us to the Memory Alpha page for water polo.
Because of course there is.
So I have some facts for you guys.
Excellent.
Lay it on me.
According to Memory Alpha, the reason that they made Archer so into water polo was because Rick Berman's son played water polo.
Shocked.
Yeah,
I knew that.
Pretty
I
sure
knew it. It
I'm
had to
pretty
have
sure we called that earlier. That somebody on the
But also, Scott Bakula actually played water polo when he was younger.
Nice.
So he had some water polo experience himself. But apparently Scott Bakula got so sick of all the water polo references on the show that he pushed the writers to also make Archer into lacrosse, but he could not convince them. Like, he just wanted to add a second sport so that
Is
it
that
wasn't
why we
all
had
water
desert
polo.
lacrosse?
Maybe.
Well, he had to play it, so maybe like he was like, "I want a game I can play."
What a weird fucking swerve. You know, I'm really tired of all this water polo. You know what's really going to sell the audience on this character? Lacrosse.
The other white sport.
Okay, but I feel like lacrosse would make more sense because water polo is the worst sport to like just watch a game of because all the action is under the water. You can't even see
underwater.
what's going on. Lacrosse is a sport that I could believe, like if you told me in 150 years lacrosse was going to be like a huge sport, I would believe that. But if you told me water polo was going to be huge, absolutely not.
What if it had been Hyali? What if Archer goes into the holodeck and he's playing the Aztec head-kicking game where you use a head as a soccer ball?
Oh, and one more thing on Archer's room. He always has that weird little mini statue on his desk. And Eric thought that it might be a statue of Columbus, which was concerning if true. So I looked it up because it looks like the Columbus statue that was in Chicago that was removed a couple of years ago. So I looked it up, and it is actually a statue of Zephyrin Cochrane.
Ah.
Maybe it was sort of built or made to intentionally look similar.
Like he just has his arm up, and that's a pretty common statue.
I think they mentioned that in First Contact. Jordy tells Zephyrin Cochrane that they built a statue, and he describes the statue to him.
Oh,
Well, I'm pretty sure we've seen it in Lower Decks.
Well, it makes sense. Oh yeah, didn't they? Yeah, they went to Bozeman. Yeah, they had to steal the ship. So, a lot of missed opportunities here. It was a fine episode. It didn't make me angry. Let's put it that way.
I think the problem that I had with it was just the dialogue was so badly written. It was really hard. Like I could tell what they were trying to do, but they weren't getting it right.
No.
You know, like just the interaction between Archer and T'Pol, and even T'Pol and Minos was very stilted to me, and it didn't make a lot of sense.
A lot of great opportunities they missed there, because Minos was sent he was a Vulcan who was sent undercover into a criminal organization and then became a criminal himself. And for him to confront T'Pol, it's like, how dare you judge me? They sent me there. They made me into this.
Yeah, Maria, when you told me about the episode, I was like, this actually sounds really fun. Like, it sounds really interesting. But then watching it, it was just big nothing.
It kind of to the point about the one episode I did being like an episode of the A-Team. This felt like any like 80s cop show that was sort of half written.
Like a bounty hunter show, kind of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go, I want to mention Trip again. I know, Maria, you've already mentioned, like, it does really suck that they don't go back to Trip. We don't get to see what his decisions were on these things. I think it would have been a really fun, especially we never get B-plot. And this was sort of a B-plot, but not really because it was one scene. I don't feel like that counts as a B-plot. But it would have been nice if we just had one more scene where, like, because the first scene he was, like, getting very overwhelmed, and then the second scene we just see him like knowing what he's doing and like in control, and
then the third scene is Archer fixing all the things that he thought he was doing right.
In Trip's defense, if Phlox came to me, I'd be like, wait, are you telling me the entire crew is going to be shitting themselves for 2 days? I don't know what's the B side of this.
But also, I just can't help but feel that Archer set him up to fail by being like, oh, if the Vulcans show up, just like, don't tell them I'm not here.
Yeah.
That's putting him in such a bad position. And it's a really shitty thing to do to your sort of second in command. In his like first big like gig being in charge of the Enterprise for this long, Archer's just didn't even think about it. He didn't care enough to think about how to set Trip up so that he'd do a good job on this.
You know, he was too busy being excited that T'Pol had actually asked him to come play on this mission with her.
You just reminded me that the reason why Trip had to impersonate Archer was that fucking Forrest gave the Vulcan captain a message about water polo scores. I was like, this could have been an email. They didn't need to rush here with this.
But it did sort of feel like that felt like Forrest and Archer fucking with the Vulcans, right? Like next time
I could totally see him doing that.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I'm gonna make these big Vulcans sell you a water polo score, and they're not gonna know what it's about. That definitely felt like a little
that
thing
actually
between
feels
them.
fun.
Stanford 173. I don't know what that means. Just tell him the spotted pigeon is angry. Also, no decon scene after Archer mentions that all three of them have to go through decon after exposing themselves to these dangerous materials.
Yeah, and he mentioned it multiple times.
Multiple times.
Yeah, but no decon. Jeez. And that's the episode. Thanks for listening. Next time, Jamie will be watching the episode The Communicator. Special thanks to K.O. Myers at Particulate Media for sound assistance, to our friend David for our beautiful cover art, and to John Stephen King for being the voice of our computer. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast app of choice, and tell your friends about it. We really appreciate it. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook as @EnterpriseSplaining and on Blue Sky as @EnterpriseSplain. You can also email us any comments or questions such as, did the entire crew end up getting the shits? To enterprisesplaining@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you want to support this podcast, you can find us at Buy Me a Coffee as Enterprise Splaining. See you next week.
Bye.
If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast app of choice.
Choice? I do declare, if you want to rate review on your podcast app of choice, we certainly would appreciate it. Oh, I got the vapors. Oh, my.
My, drink my mint julep.
Hey, Tony,
Yes, Joe?
we need to make a new promo.
For the Watchathon of Rassilon?
Yes, the podcast where we talk about every episode of Doctor Who in order.
Well, what do we need to say about it?
Actually, I think that pretty much covers it.
Great!
The Watchathon of Rassilon,
It's a Doctor Who podcast!
and a proud member of the ESO Network.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.